On a philosophical basis, several of the issues that have been in front of the city, not just city council, not just mayor, but the city itself, over the last couple years or last couple months, and the Flying J truck stop travel center is overdone with. It was a private business deal. I'm not talking specifically about that issue. It is an example of the question. The noise ordinance is an example of the question.
Okay. Not
specifically those. I want everybody to understand what this question really is. How do you, as part of government, balance the needs of the public citizens with the needs of private businesses when they clash, like they did over some of these issues? I mean, that's kind of a tough place to be, because, you know, obviously with the noise ordinance, the public desires were totally opposite of what the business, you could say, needs to be able to do to stay in business. Kind of the same thing with the proposed travel center. I mean, they said that was the best place for their business. The public, a significant segment of the public was not in favor of that location. How do you balance that? Go ahead. Your answer has to be longer than my question.
What was the question? No, my daughter put it best to me right after I was elected. She came in and sat down with me and goes, "So, you spent your life fighting the man. Now you're the man. How do you do that?"
Very well put.
It's a good question.
Yeah.
You have to, my job as mayor, and this is how I see my job as mayor, and you know, I was teased the other day that I've got the greatest job because I generally don't have to vote. But my job as mayor is a consensus builder and to allow for opinions to be shared and solutions to be gained. I know that there's a lot of differing opinions in the city of Mesquite. And that's one of the neatest things about this city. There are a number of people, and some people might say, "Oh, you know, we're sick and tired of hearing this group, we're sick and tired of hearing this group, just move," or, you know, whatever comments that are being made out there. I don't see it that way. I don't. I honestly don't. I see it as people who honestly care about this community. Whether they're for or against the Flying J or this noise ordinance or this ordinance, they care about the city of Mesquite, and they want what's best for the city of Mesquite. And I am happy to hear those comments, and those interested parties need to be heard. We can't, as a council or as a government, function without taking into consideration the thoughts and comments and opinions of those people we represent. And we can never forget that. The minute we forget that, we don't deserve to be in office. It's a tough act. You're on the wire. Private business. If we take the Flying J, I was for it. I had no problem at all with what the Flying J was doing. Would it have caused some traffic issues? Yes, but I think those could have been mitigated. Were there pollution issues? I think at the state level we've dealt with those, and we're trying to move forward on that issue. They have laws, they have regulations that truck drivers have to follow. We already have a truck stop. It might not be called a truck stop, but it's sitting right over there in what could arguably be one of the busiest intersections in the city as well. Balancing the needs of the community, would that have brought needed dollars and jobs to this community? Absolutely. Absolutely. I know there's been a lot of people asking, why did it fall through? It was a private business deal. It's always been a private business deal. The city's interest was, you know, the traffic, obviously. The traffic studies that were done said that there would be relatively little impact. We wanted to look at that a little bit more to see if the Flying J would be willing to help out to mitigate some of those problems and to help us. They're obviously the experts in traffic. They do this for a living, put these types of facilities together, and they know. So I don't think it was anything in Councilman Littman's request. I don't think he was out of line at all. I think that was a perfectly logical request from the councilman to see what they were willing to do to help us.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, there were some people that don't believe that we should have a truck stop right there. Again, we come back to the same issue we have with the sign ordinance, aesthetics. We're all going to have differing opinions as to what looks good and what doesn't look good. What is safe, what is fair, what is equitable. Those are the issues that the city itself really needs to look at. And that's what I look at. Everybody's entitled to an opinion. Sometimes we're not going to get our way.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get my way a lot of times, and that's fine. That's part of the deal. But everybody should be heard. And so that's the way that I look at it. Now, obviously, I look at it a lot different than a council person looks at it, because they're the ones that say yes or no. Mm-hmm. Obviously, I sign it, and if I sign it, I will tell you why I signed it. I agree to it. It's fine. I don't have a problem with that at all. The noise ordinance, very interesting. And as you know, there are many different sides. And there is a minority. There is a group of people, and I won't say they're the minority for any given issue, but there's just a certain group of people that are willing to stand up and make a comment. It's hard to do that. Mm-hmm. That's not an easy thing, and I see that all the time when people come up for the first time and want to talk at the city council meetings. They are genuinely scared to be there, and that can be a rather intimidating process.
Until you're like me and just do it so many times.
Right. But it can be intimidating. Most
yes,
people, what's the study say? Most people would rather die than speak publicly.
Yeah.
And speaking publicly is a tough thing to do. So I appreciate anybody that's willing to come up and make a comment, because I know what it takes to do that. We need to hear those voices. We need to hear the minority voices. We need to understand that there's also probably a majority out there that aren't making a comment. Right. That's the balance. You're just philosophically going back, specifically, you did a trending. Your surveys aren't scientific, and I know that.
No.
But the trend on the Flying J was, I believe, 80-some% for. Mm-hmm. You know, who's to say? It's a moot point at this point, because right. Two business entities decided to pull that off the agenda and not pursue it at this time for that particular, whatever reason they decided on.
Yeah, because the decision to cancel the project had nothing to do with the city. Is that correct?
I don't believe it did. You have
okay.
two
I mean,
business,
it wasn't the
two
city.
two business entities decided to not do something. That's their choice. It was their choice to bring it forward in the first place. Mm-hmm. And we don't have any way of controlling what two private businesses do, other than when they ask for permits and variances. That's the city's job. And quite frankly, the city shouldn't be digging into private businesses. We need to regulate, obviously. We need to have a fair playing field for everyone. That's what we need to be looking for. Business is what it is. It's a private entity. They have the right to their privacy. They have the right to do what they wish to do with their property, as long as we're following the regulations that are set by right. ordinance. And that's what I mean by a fair playing field. Everybody has to fall under the same regulations and rules.